spotty, honey.
That's snowy.
That'll be spotty.
Hello everyone, this is the Fifth Epical Revelations Fellowship. I'm Reverend Dr. Roger Paul, and today is the 22nd of April, 2015. Tonight we're going to study paper 42, Energy, Mind, and Matter. And that begins on page 467 of the Urantia book. We don't expect to make it all the way through this tonight, maybe halfway, because it's a very involved paper. It's a very interesting paper, it's very complicated. And I was just telling my group here that I could have used another week to prepare for this, but we're going to go for it anyway. So, anyway, let's say a little prayer and we'll get started. Father, thank you for bringing us together again tonight. We pray that you'll watch over and bless this meeting tonight, that we might do your will and we might learn what you'd have us to learn. I feel personally inadequate to teach this tonight. It's such a complicated paper and there's so much to it and so much for everyone to learn from. I pray that you'll be with me and guide me along tonight and have me teach what you would have students to learn. We thank you and we give you the praise in your Son's name, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen. All right, let's get started. If y'all see, well, I guess Millie will call in if she comes in because I don't see her out. Well, I see her out there, but she's not answering. So let's just get started. Pardon me?
Is Tim still there?
Yeah, he's still there. He just turned his video off.
Just a small comment, Roger. You're kind of breaking up just a little bit when you speak.
Really? Well, let me redial everybody. I hate to do
Got a
this.
clear connection.
Do you?
You got a good connection? Oh my goodness.
All right, well, let me just redial everybody real quick. Okay. We start out meeting this way.
So it goes.
Okay, see if this works a little bit better. Tim, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. We'll see
But
if
when you
that...
speak, you kind of break up just a little bit. But I think it's okay. I hope it's not my headphones or it's me.
Okay. Are you hearing me all right, Rodney?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm hearing you okay right now, Roger.
Are you? Okay. All right. Great.
very good video.
Do we have video tonight?
Very good.
In Skype land? Good. Good. Okay. Paper 42. Tim, would you like to start reading for us tonight?
Yes. The foundation of the universe is material, in the sense that energy is the basis of all existence, and pure energy is controlled by the universal Father. Force energy is the one thing which stands as an everlasting monument, demonstrating and proving the existence and presence of the universal absolute. This vast stream of energy proceeding from the paradise presences has never lapsed, never failed. There has never been a break in the infinite upholding.
Okay. Tim, you may not know this because you weren't with us when we studied this, but when we studied the forward of the paper, we studied the universal absolute. And part of what the universal absolute is, it's both the deity and the non-deity part of God the Father. It's one of the 7 absolutes. Okay? And the interesting part about this paper, Energy, Mind, and Matter, is they start right out from the beginning with the fact that pure energy is controlled by the universal Father. And that's controlled by the universal absolute and the unqualified absolute. The pure energy, the primordial forces, that starts out before everything else does, comes from the unqualified absolute. And that's what the architects of the Master Universe manipulate with the Master Physical Controllers. And it's interesting that the fact that pure energy itself is controlled by the universal Father and nothing else, not the Son, not the Spirit, but the energy itself is controlled by the universal Father personally. And this proves the existence of the Father and the universal absolute. The fact that this energy comes out from the Father and it never, ever, ever throughout all eternity, past and present, ever stops. And it's never let down. And that's what they say here. The presence has never lapsed, never failed. There will be, never ever will be a break in the infinite upholding of the universe of the Father. If that were the case, all matter would collapse upon itself. The universe would immediately disappear. Okay? Because it's that force that keeps all things material going. Okay? And we're going to learn about that tonight.
It's interesting, they don't include spiritual as well.
No, they don't, because to have a basis, Rodney, for the spiritual, you have to have the material.
Exactly.
So,
And then I thought it was interesting as well that they used the word control instead of sustain.
that's right. It is interesting that they did that. And other interesting thing, Rodney, is the material and the spiritual. One cannot exist without the other. The material and the spiritual. So the material is the stage in which the spiritual has activity, basically. So without the material, there would be no spiritual for it to act on,
I
right?
understand.
And without the spiritual, there would be no spiritual essence in the material, right? You could have one, you can't have one without the other. And it's also interesting, and we're going to find that out a little bit later tonight, that all material comes from paradise. Paradise is the center of the material universe, and they're out through all four outer space levels. Okay.
So,
Roger,
Yeah.
what exactly is pure energy?
Pure energy is the force that starts out before primordial energy. In other words, when we talk about primordial energy, this is energy that exists out before all the organizations of all the universes. Before the unqualified absolute can act in the outer space levels to start bringing the matter together in some sort of form, we have to have the pure energy as the backdrop. And the pure energy is provided by whom? The Universal Father. So the unqualified absolute, one of the seven of the absolutes, in order for the unqualified absolute to manipulate primordial matter, it has to have what? The pure energy from God the Father. Now we understand that the unqualified absolute and God the Father are one and the same. But there is a separation in the energy concept there. And the problem the problem we have is we don't have a definition for the differences of these energies ourselves. And we're going to get those tonight. Okay?
You can read about these, the universal absolute, actually in the Forward, section 11.
Yes, you can. In forward section 11. And also for those at home, we did an 11-week study before we started the Forward that's out there on the Vimeo videos. We did an 11-week study of the pre-information before we started the Forward. And we covered all these in great detail. The qualified absolute, the unqualified absolute, and the universal absolute. And what each one were and what part they said. What role they played. I would like to redo those sometime in the future. But that is a good beginning before you start the Forward, because it gives you a little taste of what's coming in the Forward. So for those people at home, it's a pre-Forward. That's right. Precursor to pre-Forward, ready for the pre-Urantia book, right? And remember, these are all my opinions, right? Okay, let's keep going.
Hey,
Right?
Roger,
Yeah.
one other thing, material must have existed forever.
Yes, it did, because the material came from where?
Paradise.
Paradise, right? Where did paradise come from? Paradise came from the eternal Son, right? Paradise is the concept of the eternal Son. Remember, paradise appeared the same time as the infinite Spirit, right? Havona and paradise, both. The infinite Spirit is the actor for paradise, right? That's why they call him the conjoint actor. The Father and the Son is the concept or the Word. Their concept and the Word was what? Paradise. And how did they act from paradise? The Infinite Spirit automatically appeared the same time as paradise. So that was the completion of the Trinity.
I thought
Right.
that was Havana, though. But that
It is Havana also, but paradise was part of the original concept of God the Son.
Right, it was. And then, but when the Infinite Spirit came into existence, then Havana came instantly also.
That's right, it did. But a paradise appeared at the same time because you could not have paradise without the action of the conjoint actor. Okay? Makes sense?
So it all happened simultaneously.
It all happened simultaneously. Remember that God, the Spirit, the Infinite Spirit, is what? One of the 7 absolutes. Right? Never beginning, never ending. So we put it at a beginning point, but in reality it never began.
Never.
Yeah. Sounds like double talk, but it's not.
Mm.
We know that paradise appeared at the same time as the conjoint actor because no action could be done without the conjoint actor. Okay? That's why they call the conjoint actor the conjoint actor. She acts, or he acts on the material world. Right? Okay. Who acts on the spiritual world? The Son, the eternal Son. That's right.
Universal Mother.
Universal
Slash Universal
Universal
Mother.
Mother. That's right. Let's not get too far off base here because we're gonna. I'll be reteaching the whole forward again. All right, Rodney, would you take the next one?
Okay, hopefully my oxygen isn't interfering.
No.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay, the manipulation of the universe energy is ever in accordance with the personal will and the all-wise mandates of the Universal Father. His personal control of manifested power and circulating energy is modified by the coordinate acts and decisions of the Eternal Son, as well as by the united purposes of the Son and the Father executed by the conjoint actor. These divine beings act personally and as individuals. They also function in the persons and powers of an almost unlimited number of subordinates,
Divine.
variously
Yeah.
expressive of the eternal and divine purpose in the universe and universes. But these functional and provisional modifications or transmutations of divine power in no way lessen the truth of the statement that all force energy is under the ultimate control of a personal God resident at the center of all things.
Okay, so this paragraph kind of tells us that it's the personal control of power and circulating energy is modified by who? The Eternal Son and the conjoint actor, right? So this energy is provided by the Father, it's modified and controlled by the Eternal Son and the conjoint actor, and what? All his and all their subordinates, all the deities below them, all the way down to God the sevenfold in the local universes, right? Which includes the Ancients of Days, the Creator Sons, the Creative Mother Spirits, God the Supreme. You know, all 7 of them are under this jurisdiction. So for them to manipulate matter or manipulate energy or do any of these things of creative abilities, they have to do it through the Eternal Son and the conjoint actor, right? And it starts by whom? The unqualified absolute. That's the deity that kicks it off, right? With pure energy.
I have some questions for you, Roger.
Go right ahead, Tim.
When they say the word energy, what are we talking about? Because at the beginning, at the title, it says energy, then there's a dash and it says mind and matter.
Right.
And then there's force energy. So whenever the word energy is used, are we talking about just mind and matter?
No, we're talking about pure energy. That force that creates all mind and all matter. Okay? Behind all matter, material things, is molecules and nucleuses and ultimatons, right? The ultimatons makes the electrons and the nucleuses and the whole 9 yards. But the force that makes those ultimatons move and stay in their orbit is called an energy. And that energy is what is provided by God the Father. So if that energy was removed, all electrons would collapse upon themselves. And they would collapse into the nucleus of the matter. So all matter would implode, in essence. Okay? So without that force to keep those ultimatons moving, nothing would exist. Nothing material would exist any longer. Right? So that's the pure energy they're talking about. Now, they're not talking about all the downsteppings of energy, which include electrical energy, light energy, X-ray energy, gamma energy. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. There are 100 octaves of different types of energy manifestation. Okay? From light to X-ray, we know of 64 on our planet right now, but there are 100 in the universe. There's many of them we don't know anything about. Okay? So if you think about it, the manifestations of the material energy are all within this gamut of 100 octaves. Okay? And within those 100 octaves, we have different light waves too. So when you see material thing, that's only one octave, eight divisions, okay, that we see of light. There's many of them. We know there's ultraviolet light, we know that there's X-ray light, we know that there's gamma radiation, etc., etc., etc. So if you think of material beings, we're only talking about one octave, okay? So let's look at Morontian beings. Maybe they are a totally different octave. That's why we can't see Morontia beings, okay? Midwayers, they're on a different octave. That's why we can't see them. Okay? When you get to the mansion worlds, your eyes are tuned to be able to see higher types of beings, even spiritual beings, right? So the mechanical controllers adjust your eyesight so you can see a wider range of octaves. Now how does this work? As you go up through the universe closer and closer to paradise, you're tuned in on more and more and more and more octaves that you can see. So by the time you get past our local universe, Salmington, when you start to step into the spiritual world, what happens? You're on a whole different range, right? That we don't even know about on this planet, really. So if you think about it, you talk about vibrations of atoms and that sort of thing. The vibrations of the atoms may be what the octaves use to show the visibility of those. So thinking about this, I don't want to get too far off course here, but thinking about this, if this is the case, depending on what vibration pattern or what octave you're in, would determine what you actually see. So if your eyes were expanded so you could see 3 times the octaves we have on this planet, you might be able to see Morontia beings. You might be able to see midwayers. You might be able to see angels. You might be able to see mighty messengers. Things like that, you know, because they're on different octave waves. Does that make sense?
And octave waves are frequencies?
Frequencies,
Yeah,
right.
frequency.
Right.
Can I just add one more question for you?
Sure.
When they mention a personal God, what does that mean? Because it sounds as if somebody is inventing their own God and it's personal to them.
No, a personal God is because God controls the circuit of personality. All personalities, human, angels, midwayers, divine beings, all of them are given personality through the universal Father. Now what's the exceptions of those? The infinite Spirit gives personality to certain beings under His purvey. And that's the exception to that. But all other beings get their personality from God the Father. So that's why he is a personal being. And what makes him a personal being is that thought adjuster. He has given a piece of himself, his own personality, to us to develop a new personality for that thought adjuster, right? And that's what happens when we develop the soul. So we're not just talking about a relationship, God the Father, God the Son only. We're also talking about the essence of who we are. Okay?
So we're talking about a personal God, meaning that he's the universal Father that bestows an individual personality and a thought adjuster.
That's right, and a thought adjuster. Now, the difference is this, Tim. He is a personal Father and a God to every single being in the universe.
Correct.
Okay? So that makes him a personal God to us, right?
And he's also concerned about our welfare. He shows interest and he's concerned about his children.
That's right, every being, every single being. And he does that through the thought adjuster, right? For us. Okay, and there are beings that don't have thought adjusters, remember that? He still provides personality for those beings, right? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
All
You
right,
explained that very well, thank you.
Yeah, that's excellent.
okay. Let's go on. Rodney, would you take the next one?
I think it's mine.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Diane, would you take the next one?
1. Paradise forces and energies. The foundation of the universe is material, but the essence of life is spirit. The Father of spirits is also the ancestor of universes. The eternal Father of the original Son is also the eternity source of the original pattern, the Isle of Paradise.
The Isle of Paradise, the original pattern. That's what started it all off. Now, do you think that the unqualified absolute was involved in the creation of the Isle of Paradise? I would think so,
Yeah.
because everything
He
emanates.
brought the energy from
That, yeah, everything emanates from the beneath neither paradise, right? Okay. All right. Matter, energy, for they are but diverse manifestations of the same cosmic reality. Did y'all catch that? As a universe phenomena is inherent in the universal Father. In him all things consist. Matter may appear to manifest inherent energy and to exhibit self-contained powers, but the lines of gravity involved in these energies concerned in all these physical phenomena are derived from and are dependent on paradise, the ultimaton. The first measurable form of energy has paradise as its nucleus. Now think about this. Matter and energy are but the same diverse manifestations of cosmic reality. You could contemplate that for months. But matter and the energy that controls matter are one and the same. They're inseparable. Okay? What controls that matter? Paradise does. How does paradise control matter? It controls it through the ultimaton. The first measurable form of energy has paradise as its nucleus. So, without gravity, without all the other circuits and forces and all these things that come from God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit, with all of those, okay, paradise itself controls the ultimaton without gravity. You're going, what? How's that possible? The ultimaton does not become gravity responsive till it is associated with an electron or a neutron. Okay? So the force that controls the ultimaton comes from paradise, not from the gravity. The gravity controls all the rest of the molecule. Okay? So the ultimaton is considered separate from the molecule. It becomes part of the molecule through the gravity of the molecule. Does that make sense? So paradise controls all matter.
I was just going to tell you, Roger, that a few minutes ago it just cut me off and I just redialed and I'm back.
Oh, okay. Did you?
So I didn't get to hear Diane Did she read the whole thing, or?
Yeah, she read, and then I read 42:1-2, energy and matter.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, it says here it's the eternity source of the original pattern, the Isle of Paradise. So the original pattern is the Isle of Paradise.
The original pattern is all the Isle of Paradise. And I just explained, I don't know if you caught all that, Tim, that Paradise controls all matter through the ultimaton. Okay? The ultimaton is at first non-responsive to gravity. When the ultimaton binds with electrons and neutrons to create molecules or matter, that's when it becomes gravity responsive. Okay? So Paradise always controls all matter through the ultimaton. Without the connection as Paradise as the nucleus, what would happen? The universe would collapse.
So the ultimaton is pure energy.
The ultimaton is part of the pure energy.
You know, and I also think of Paradise as a machine that was created by the Universal Father, because it's non-deity.
It's non-deity, that's right. It is like a machine. It works like a machine, really. It's the pattern. That's what they're making the point here, that Paradise is the pattern for all matter in the universe.
And these are what the Creator Sons, like the Michaels, that actually want to live up to. Their universes are kind of like they're duplicating the Isle of Paradise.
That's
Yes.
right. That's exactly right. When they create their local universes, they want it to be perfect like Paradise is perfect. Paradise is perfection, right? So Havona, the central universe, okay, was created after what? Perfection. Because that's the eternal Son's domain, right? And that's what the Creator Sons are trying to do. They're trying to create the local universe like what? Havona and Paradise.
But it's based on the ascension plan of evolutionary and the evolutionary process.
That's right.
Whereas Havona is perfect, was created,
Was
eventuated.
Yeah, it eventuated. That's right. Transcendental.
Transcendental.
Yeah.
After each universe becomes light and love eventually.
Yeah.
Does that mean they become perfect?
That's as we go closer and closer to perfection, Rodney. That's why they call it light and life. Okay, when we get to a certain point of perfection, then we have come to the realization of perfection, both material, physically, mindal, and spiritual. Right, and that's why they call it light and life. We've reached the ultimate part of light or enlightenment. And life, what's the life part? We have come to the point of eternity, right? We will be this way forevermore, okay? That's why when all the 7 super universes reach light and life, all thing falls into place, then the Supreme Being will come into full fruition, because the Supreme Being will be the supreme ruler of what? Light and life, or the 7 super universes. Alright? That's why they think that we are 6-stage spirits until all the universe reaches light and life. And the perception in the Urantia book gives us that we will probably become 7th stage spirits when all the universe reaches light and life, and we will all become 7th stage spirits simultaneously. Does that make sense?
And then we go into the ultimate, which is into the outer space level.
Then we jump to the next level, the first outer space level,
Okay.
right? Okay. A lot to it, isn't
It's
there?
one page.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on. Tim, would you take the next one?
Where are we at, Roger?
There is an innate in matter.
Okay. There is an innate in matter and present in the universal space a form of energy not known on Urantia. When its discovery is finally made, then will the physicists feel that they have solved almost at least the mystery of matter. And so will they have approached one step nearer the Creator. So will they have mastered one more phase of the divine technique, but in no sense will they have found God. Neither will they have established the existence of matter, or the operation of natural laws apart from the cosmic technique of paradise and the motivating purpose of the Universal Father.
So we will discover another part of innate in matter. What are they talking about?
Water.
A force within matter that controls everything, right? But they still will not be able to do what? Create life. Because only the innate, or God the Father, or the infinite spirit, really, can give that spark of light to create it. You can put the materials together, but what is it that gives it that spark of life? It might have something to do with what?
Divine Mother Spirit?
The Divine Mother Spirit, and what else? The
The Infinite
Ultimaton.
Spirit?
The ultimate.
The Ultimaton, that pure energy which activates the Ultimaton to bind with the electron and the nucleus of the atoms, right? You can put the parts together, you can't make it go, right? There's a certain amount of innate ability within the molecules to do certain things, but that spark of life is created only by the Infinite Spirit, right? This makes
Now,
it,
Roger, when this book came into existence, this revelation, that was back in, what, 35?
1933, 34, right?
Yeah.
It's 34 to 35.
Yeah,
But it was published on October 12, 1955 on a Wednesday.
yeah.
Since then, the scientists have discovered the neutrino. And I
Yes.
wondered if they just label it neutrino when it's the ultimate.
Okay, I'll give you a little hint to that, Rodney, and let you look it up for yourself. On Encyclopedia Urantia, paper 42, there's an article in there about the Ultimaton by a Oriental gentleman, and he discovered it in 1999. Okay, and there's a paper in there on that in the encyclopedia. Matter of fact, I have it connected to one of these slides. If you have not the viewer but the regular program, in the notes I put it underneath the slide. Okay, so that you can access it there. If not, you can look it up on Encyclopedia Urantia under paper 42. It's under a thing called Ultimaton. Now, in 1999, he discovered the Ultimaton. He wrote a paper about the Ultimaton, and in 2008, he updated it. There's actually a picture of the structure of what he believes the Ultimaton looks like, a molecular structure. So, to answer your question, get back to your question. Is it what they discovered? I cannot say for sure, personally, Rodney, but it's a good possibility.
Okay, interesting.
But read the thing on the Ultimaton, because he calls it an Ultimaton and they call it something totally different, right? So it may be the same thing. Now what's interesting is this book was written in 1934 and 35, actually 33, 34, 35. The part we're reading was 1934, okay? They had not even conceived that this was the case in 1934. If you would have talked to them about an Ultimaton, they'd have looked at you like you had three faces. You know, what are you talking about? You know? So it's interesting they predicted this how many years before they discovered it? That's why they call it what? Revelation, right? All right.
I had a question for you, Roger.
Yeah.
What would you say to a 21st century scientist today who says that the Urantia papers are outdated? I don't think they are. I think they're ahead of their time.
I don't think they're outdated at all. I don't even think they're behind in any sense, form, or fashion. Let me tell you why, Tim. The things they explain in the Urantia book are hard concepts to comprehend, okay? And people do not know how to take the time to sit down and comprehend the book. The problem being this: in order to understand papers in the book, you have to have read the book all the way through several times, because when they talk about these things in different papers in the books, it might be at the beginning of the book, it might be at the end of the book, okay, that they're talking. So to understand everything you're reading, you have to have all the parts to plug them in and put them together. So to gain a comprehension of the book, I would say the minimum you would have to read it would be at least 5 times, you know, because you pick up little things as you do. And then when you study the book and go through it, you start plugging all of these things you've learned into the paragraphs, right? And so it makes sense. The first time you read through some of this stuff, it seems like gobbledygook to you. What the heck are they talking about? You know, when you start talking about the unqualified absolute, first time you read it, you go, "What is that?" You know, and somebody can explain it to you, and you know what your response is? What is that? You know, so I think the problem is that the Urantia book is not outdated, Tim, but the understanding of the Urantia book is not up to date with these people. You know what I'm saying? They learn in a linear fashion, and the Urantia book teaches in a non-linear fashion. It goes all the way from beginning to end. That's the only linear part of it. But to understand it, you have to go all different directions in the book, right? And that's why we teach classes. That's why I think it's important for people like us that have gained some of the understanding to teach classes on the book so that other people can take that understanding and take it to the next level. You know, people that teach this book 20 years from now I'm going to seem like I'm a kindergartner, right? I mean, that's just the way it is, because we gain knowledge through time. And I think that's what the problem is, Tim. It's not behind its time. The problem is the understanding of the people that's critiquing it is non-understanding, right? So, and we talked about that a little bit last week. You know, how people that criticize the book usually criticize it because their lack of understanding what's in the book, right? So.
That was well said, Roger. Thank you.
Sure. All right, let's keep going. Tim, would you take the next one, subsequent to?
Subsequent to even still greater progress and further discoveries after Urantia has advanced immeasurably in comparison with present knowledge, though you should gain control of the energy revolutions of the electrical units of matter to the extent of modifying their physical manifestations. Even after all such possible progress, forever will scientists be powerless to create one atom of matter, or to originate one flash of energy, or even to add to matter that which we call life.
Here we come back again, that spark of life, isn't it? You can put the elements together, that does not make it alive, right? There's a difference between a mechanical unit and a live unit, right? That's why I have such hard problems with all these shows that have intelligent computers. The computer is relaying its programming. It is not intelligent. This stuff about, you know, it's alive and that sort of thing is a bunch of poppycock. It makes for good TVs and good movies, but reality is a total different thing, right? I can say that because I'm a computer expert, right? I'm about as expert as you get on computers. So anyway, but that's my.
How do you feel about human cloning?
I think it will happen.
It's a whole new subject.
It's a whole different subject. I think it probably already has happened. We've already cloned human beings, but the spark of light for that human being comes from where? The infinite spirit. If that cloned human being does not have the spark of life from the infinite spirit, it does not have what? It does not have a thought adjuster. It does not have a soul. So does that make that a human? No. It would not be human.
So
Right?
it would have to have thought adjuster.
Without the thought adjuster, it's an animal.
So a cloned human would have a thought adjuster.
It'd have to.
It would have to.
It'd have to if it survived, right? If it did not, what would it be? It would be an animal. Are there animals in the universe without thought adjusters? Yes.
Yes.
Many different types, right? That have different functions. Do you think God the Father would allow us to create beings without thought adjuster, without the possibility for an indwelling thought adjuster? Do you think a creator son would let us do that? No. So if we clone human beings, do you think that they'll be individuals just like we are? Yes, they will be. They'll be duplicate physical bodies, but they'll have totally different souls. Why would that be? You think about it.
Personality.
Because of the personality. From the moment of inception, when they were born or created, whatever, from that moment on, their pathway would be different from their experience from the past, right? So they would be a totally different person at that point, whenever that birth occurred. The only way that birth can occur is what? The infinite spirit gives it the spark of life. When the infinite spirit gives it the spark of life, what happens? When it makes the first moral decision, what happens? Gets a thought adjuster. Because it's a human. Alright? If it's a clone being, it's a human. Right? If it has no soul, is it a human? No. It would be what? An animal. Okay? What's the difference between a human and an animal? An animal has no what?
Adjuster.
Adjuster.
Not adjuster.
That's right. It has no soul, right?
But we would love it probably because we love our
We
animals.
would love it because we love our pets.
So, but it would not have an opportunity to participate in the ascension plan.
It would not if it did not get an adjuster. That's the only way it could. And if it does not get an adjuster, what does that mean? That means it would go through a life as an animal with the possibilities of an animal, and at death what would happen? It would cease to exist.
So when they talk about one atom of matter or one flash of energy, we're just talking about life.
That's right, life, period. We're not talking about personality. We're not talking about the soul, right? We're just talking about mechanism, making atoms go, basically. That make sense?
Thank you, Roger.
Did I confuse the issue?
Well, it goes back to my original, issue, which is always I love my animals so much. I
We
cannot
don't know-
believe I cannot believe that I will not see my
We know the animals are under the purview of what?
infinite spirit.
The infinite spirit, creative mother spirit, right? We do not know, it never tells us in the book, we do not know if the animals are recycled, reincarnated. We know they have energy, we know they have personality, we know they have the first 5 adjunct mind spirits. They do not have worship or wisdom. When they gain worship or wisdom, they are no longer animals. Right?
Yeah,
So-
that seems to be a really big problem when I talk to people.
Oh,
Yeah,
it is. It
it's
still
with
is.
everyone.
Yeah.
And that's because no one in the original forum bothered to ask
those questions.
those questions. So we have no information. Without the information, we can assume one of two things: that the animals are reincarnated and reused, just like the Spernasia and beings like that are. They don't die; they're just reincarnated, give new bodies, or they cease to exist, and the force that makes them what they are reused by the infinite Mother Spirit. That's the only two possibilities that I can think of.
Yeah, because they don't have souls.
They don't have souls. So would they end up on the mansion world? No. But, Rodney, I just said that, came out of my mouth, but, there's a big but in here. But, it also says in the book, anything of a spiritual value to individuals survives. Right? So if that animal, I've got animals too, if that animal has some spiritual significance to me, do you think that it would be recreated on the mansion world for my continued enjoyment?
Yes, I do. I do.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
I do.
So they don't go to heaven on their own right. If they do go to heaven, it would be why? Because your spiritual relationship with that animal. Does that make sense?
And when you say the word animals don't have soul, we're talking about they can't make decisions.
They
correct?
can't be. Yeah, they can't make the only decision that's possible for us for survival, right? They cannot make that decision because they have no concept of God. They have no concept of worship. They have no concept of wisdom. They have the first 5 adjutants and that's it. What they are ingrained to do is a natural thing for them. Okay? So, let's take another example of this. If you take 5 human beings, you put them in a cage, okay? And you take away worship and wisdom, what do you have? 5 animals, 5 monkeys. We'd be running around doing the same things we do now, but we had no possibility of survival because we would not have what? A concept of survival. What happens to people that do not accept God as their Father? They do not survive. Cease of existence. Nothing salvageable. Does that make sense? That's why your thought adjuster takes your record and to Uversa, and they decide, final and lastly, is there anything salvageable about this being? If there's something salvageable, what happens? You go to the mansion world, right? If there's not, you cease to exist. That's the way it works.
Yeah, actually in part 4, Jesus gave a very good talk about animals.
Yeah, he does.
I know.
He does. Explains that very, very well. Yeah, that's the only key to what we have about what happens to animals, right? Okay, let's keep going. We're going to have the whole session on 3 paragraphs.
3 pages.
Yeah. Okay, who's up?
Let's see, is this the second page now we're on?
I think Rodney's up. No, I think Tim is up. I'm sorry. Subsequent.
Tim's read.
Tim just read? Okay, Rodney, you're up then.
The creation of energy and the bestowal
That's
of
subsequent.
life are the prerogatives.
Wait a minute, Rodney. We're on 42:1-4. Subsequent to even still greater progress.
Really? Okay. I thought Tim read that.
Yeah, I just read that, right?
Oh, you did?
sorry.
Yes, sir.
I'm
All the way
sorry,
down
I forgot to
where it
advance.
says we call life.
We got lost,
You're
sorry.
right. I got lost in myself there. Talking too much. Okay, Rodney, you're right. Go on.
Okay, who's on first?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The creation of energy and the bestowal of life are the prerogatives of the Universal Father and His associate creator personalities. The river of energy and life is a continuous outpouring from the deities. The universal and united stream of paradise force going forth all existence. This divine energy pervades all creation. The force organizers initiate those changes and institute those modifications of spirit force and space force, which eventuate in energy. The power directors transmute energy into matter. Thus the material worlds were born. The life carriers initiate those processes in divine matter
And dead matter.
which we call life, material life. The Mirage Power Supervisors likewise perform throughout the transition realms between the material and the spiritual worlds. The higher spirit creators inaugurate similar processes in divine forms of energy, and these ensue the higher spirit forms of intelligent life.
So it just broke down the process where the Father provides the energy, the process that goes all the way down through creation to create us and the Morancha beings, right? Okay, so let's look at this real quick here. It says the river of energy. Okay, it goes from the Father to what? The master force organizers, right? And they create that force which creates matter. Okay? And then it's passed on to the power directors. You know, we talked about them last week. How the power directors sends forth the energy to all the planets. Right? and they transmit this energy into matter also, okay? And through the life carriers, which are created by whom? The Creator Son, the infinite creative Mother Spirit, right? Initiate the process of what we call dead matter or material, and they give it what? The spark of life, the energy of life, right? And that's how we are created as beings. And after we die, that body dies, so our soul is transported to a Morancha form. And at that point, the Morancha power supervisors transform us into a new suitable form in our Morancha bodies, and they tweak us all the way up until we become spirit beings. That's our whole process. That's the whole journey. From the power from the Father to us getting to become spirit beings. This is how the pure energy or the power is transformed into a living substance for us. That makes sense?
What actually happens to our Morancha bodies? Do they just sort of, what happens to them?
Well, probably, Rodney, when we step into our spirit forms, we cast it aside just like we do our physical bodies. Or, quote, quote, according to the Urantia book, we're tweaked into the spiritual form, right? So our Morancha form stays with us forever, all through our 490 changes. And then that last change, we're changed from a Morancha form or material into a next octave or the spiritual form.
But we don't die in that process.
We don't die in the process. We never die and lose complete consciousness in the entire process, right? Our conscious being. We might go to sleep, but we won't die. We do in the human form. That is the real problem. That's why it was so important that Michael, the Creator Son, experienced death, right? Human death. He experienced the same thing that we do when we die. When he died just like we did. The difference is, him being Creator Son, he resurrected himself into the Morancha form. All other beings, the Morancha power supervisors do this for us, right? They resurrect us into the new body. A Creator Son did not need them. He resurrected himself. That's the big step off. But he experienced the same exact death as we do. And that's what's required of all Creator Sons. Right?
I was kind of confused with the word just energy plainly means.
Yeah.
But if you look in terminology of the workbooks by Dr. William Sadler, I just found on page 88 5 meanings that are just really helpful.
Well, read them to us, Tim. That's what we're doing, studying.
Energy, page 102. Spirit is divine purpose, and spirit mind is divine purpose and action. Okay, here's 2. Energy is staying, mind is meaning, spirit is value. Okay, on page 9, energy we use as an all-inclusive term applied to spiritual, mental, and material realms. Okay, page 469. In this paper, for an example, the word energy is used to denote all phases and forms of phenomenal motion, action, and potential, while force is applied to the pre-gravity and power to the post-gravity stages of energy. On 468, energy proceeds from paradise, fashioned after the divine order. Energy, pure energy, partakes of the nature of the divine organization. It is fashioned after the similitude of the 3 gods embraced in one as they function at the headquarters of the universe of universe. That would be the master universe, and that's it.
Yeah. That's a great example of the uses of energy. And that's why we're so confused too, Tim, because we don't have specific terms for each type of these energies, and we're going to learn some specific terms tonight for that. All right? If we get there. Okay, next paragraph.
Its energy proceeds from paradise.
Right. You.
Energy proceeds from thank you. Duh. Energy proceeds from paradise, fashioned after the divine order. Energy, pure energy, partakes of the nature of the divine organization. It is fashioned after the similitude of the three gods embraced in one, as they function at the headquarters of the universe of universes. And all force is circuited in paradise, comes from the paradise presences, and returns thereto, and is in essence a manifestation of the uncaused cause, the universal Father. And without the Father would not anything exist that does exist.
Isn't it interesting that energy comes from the Father? It proceeds from paradise, right? Where does it always come back to?
To the Father.
To the Father, paradise, right? So it's a divine circular motion. It goes out, it may stay gone for millions or billions of years, but it always returns back to the Father. The universe is always circular, right? Think about the three concentric circles that we have, right? God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit. They're circular, aren't they? It's like they surround paradise, right? The three concentric circles. Everything that goes out from that circle always comes back into that circle, right? On all three of the deity points.
God bless you.
Okay. Force is derived from self-existent deity. It is in itself ever existent. Force energy is imperishable, indestructible. These manifestations of the infinite may be subject to unlimited transmutations, endless transformation, and eternal metamorphosis. But in no sense or degree, not even to the slightest imaginable extent, could they or ever shall they suffer extinction. But energy through springing from the infinite is not infinitely manifest. There are outer limits to the presently conceived master universe. So, energy does not break down, does it? It goes on and on and on and on. But there is a limit to where the master universe works right now. That's why there's 4 outer space levels, aren't there? So in, let's say, the 4th outer space level, what's working out there? Probably just the pure energy or primordial force, and that's it, right? So as you come in through the rings on the 4 outer space levels, the energy is metamorphosed. It's changing, right? From each one into more of a material substance. Okay?
Makes you wonder what's beyond that.
I know it does. You know, our conception, our mind cannot even conceive of that, Rodney, because it is so far out there, right?
Well, that's what I mean is that's the extent of the material world.
Yeah, as we know it, right?
God is everything, so it goes even further.
I know, and we always in our universe we always conceive of things having a border, right? Everything is contained.
Yeah.
Everything we know of from the beginning of existence is always contained within something, right? And so to have a conception of out beyond that is incomprehensible.
Well, last week we talked about the Creative Mother Spirit, how she, her energy
Has a border.
has a border
That's right.
in Nebadon,
Yeah.
and it ends where her energy ends.
That's right.
You know, so
I guess the 4th outer space level is the same way.
probably.
There's a border of where the Father's energy goes out. At some point it's got to come back.
Right.
You know, so that's the border where it comes back. So, all right. Am I up next?
I think Rodney is.
Rodney's? No.
No, Tim. Did
Tim.
Tim?
Tim's up. Tim, are you with us?
Yeah, I was just going to tell you to cut me off again.
Yeah, I know. I saw you leave there.
Yeah.
I can come back in. Tim, you want to take energy as eternal but not infinite?
I'd love to. Energy proceeds from paradise.
No.
Fashion
No,
down.
we got that one already. It's 4218. Energy is eternal but not infinite.
Oh wow, yeah, you guys passed up force. Okay. Energy is eternal but not infinite. It ever responds to the all-embracing grasp of an infinity. Forever force and energy go on. Having gone out from paradise, they must return there too. Even if the ages upon age be required for the completion of the ordained circuit, that which is the paradise, deity, origin, can have only a paradise destination or a destiny, deity destiny.
Okay, so we just talked about this. Everything is circular. That which goes out from paradise comes into the paradise. And that force or energy that goes out is either coming back eventually or used by the paradise deity or its cohort to do some work, right? And then it still comes back. All right? Rodney.
All right. And it starts with N, right?
Right.
And all this confirms our belief in a circular, somewhat limited, but orderly and far-flung universe of universes. If this were not true, then evidence of energy depletion at some point would sooner or later appear. All laws, organizations, administration, and the testimony of universe explorers, everything points to the existence of an infinite God, but as yet a finite universe, a
Circularity of
circularity of endless existence, well nigh limitless, but nevertheless finite in contrast with infinity.
So we know that God is infinite, right? Infinity. But all indications of every type of celestial being tells us that the master universe, including the 4 outer space levels, are what? Finite. They have a limit. Even though they're beyond human comprehension, it's still finite, right? Because there's material matter involved. Okay, we're just now on 2. We're moving right along. All right, Dara, would you take the next one?
2. Universal non-spiritual energy systems, physical energies. It is indeed difficult to find suitable words in the English language whereby to designate and wherewith to describe the various levels of force and energy, physical, mind, or spiritual. These narratives cannot altogether follow your accepted definitions of force, energy, and power. There is such paucity of language that we must use these terms in multiple meanings. In this paper, for example, the word energy is used to denote all phases and forms of phenomenal motion, action, and potential, while force is applied to the pre-gravity and power to the post-gravity stages of energy.
Okay, so did y'all catch that? Because we don't have words for these concepts. They have to give us definitions of what they're talking about, right? So they use the word energy as motion, action, and potential, right? So that energy is that which makes things move, right? Makes things happen, and it is the stuff that gives it potential to do work, right? Okay, if you know physics, that might help out a little bit here. While force is applied to pre-gravity. In other words, force, they would be talking about what? The ultimaton, right? It's pre-gravity, okay? And power to the post-gravity. So once the ultimaton binds with the atoms, okay, then it's responsive to gravity, so that is post-gravity. So that's what they call power, material power, right? So the power aspect of it is when all matter comes together to create things, right? This desk, the keyboard, us, anything that's got things all together, right? That's the power, power stage of energy.
Composition.
Composition.
They also use the word power to mean sovereignty too.
They do. That's what's so confusing about our language. Power is if you didn't hear that on the videos, is what they use to describe the sovereignty of the Creator sons. That's power also. It's a different
Raj,
kind
what-
of power.
What
Right.
exactly is pre-gravity and post-gravity?
Pre-gravity would be before, that would be the stages before the Creator Sons takes over. Okay? Pre-gravity, post-gravity would be a universe in which the Creator Son, the creative Mother Spirit, has taken over because all that primordial matter has been brought together for them to manipulate. Okay? And at that point, once it's responsive to gravity, that's when, at the point in which the Creator Sons and the creative Mother Spirits can start creating their universe. Okay?
Thank you, Roger.
All right. I think you're next, Tim. Next paragraph. I will, however.
I will, however, endeavor to lessen conceptual confusion by suggesting the advisability of adopting the following classifications for cosmic force, emergent energy, and universe power, physical energy.
Okay. Hang on, Tim. Why don't you take the first one on that, too?
1. Space potency. This is the unquestioned free space presence of the unqualified absolute. The extension of this concept connotes the universe force-space potential inherent in the functional totality of the unqualified absolute, while the intention of this concept implies the totality of cosmic reality, universes which emanate eternity-wise from the never beginning, never ending, never moving, never changing Isle of Paradise.
Okay, so space potency. Space potency would be that period of time when the unqualified absolute steps in and takes an area of space and prepares it through the primordial forces for what? The architects of the master universe, right? We know that's the job of the unqualified absolute. And where does the unqualified absolute emit from? The Isle of Paradise, the neither side of the Isle of Paradise. That's where the unqualified absolute comes from. It comes back around and goes back in there, right? It's a circle. The unqualified absolute.
It comes from
And that
the
is also
neither.
the futuristic deity, correct?
Yes, it is. The unqualified absolute. That's the deity that prepares the outer space levels, right? Okay. We know it comes from the under Isle of Paradise because what they explained to us, right? There's a mid-space zone, and then there's the unqualified absolute, and then there's the top part of Paradise, right? But we know it comes from the Isle of Paradise, but it is the space presence of the unqualified absolute.
Would you like me to read you two small notes?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, space potency, page 469. It says, space potency is the pre-reality. It is the domain of the unqualified absolute and is responsive only to the personal grasp of the Universal Father, notwithstanding that it is seemingly modified by the presence of the primary master force organizers. And then, the last one, on Uversa, space potency is spoken of as absoluta.
Yes. Yeah, that's that quote. We're going to get to that in this paper yet too. That's right. So you see where the unqualified absolute is the Universal Father also? One of the seven absolutes, right? Okay. You see why this is confusing when people read it? If they don't understand these things, then it's hard to understand what they're talking
And
about.
if we hadn't already studied the forward and all the
Section,
yeah,
yeah.
it would be very difficult to understand.
Yeah, it'd be hard to understand, next to impossible. Okay, I put some slides in here for you. Okay, here it says the potential force becomes active and primordial in response to the space presence of the master force organizer. Primary master force organizer. Primordial force is also called pure energy, not responsive to gravity, or segregata, segregated from the grasp of the unqualified absolute. Okay? So, Over here we have space potential or unpervaded space. They call this absoluta, right? And then down here we have the unqualified absolute, and this comes from the underside of paradise, right? And once the primary master force organizers show up, that's this guy here, then it's passed from the unqualified absolute to the primary master force organizer, right? And it's not responsive to gravity, okay? Or segregated from the grasp of the unqualified absolute, okay? Does that make sense? Okay.
In case anybody wanted to know what absoluta means, it just means Uversa affiliation for space potency.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to get to that too. All right. Who's next? Rodney, would you take the next paragraph?
All right. And I'll tell you what, before I read, number one, this paper was from a mighty messenger.
Right.
It keeps saying I. That's who we're talking about.
Yes. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, a mighty messenger.
And then number two.
And remind us where the mighty messengers come from, Rodney. Do you remember?
Where they come from?
Yeah, they were
Originally?
more. Yeah,
They were just human beings like us.
that's right. They were.
They were, Roger, I just wanted to say something. They were actually, at one time, in the core finality, and then they were pretty much erased from that, and they became something higher. They were trinitized. And once you get trinitized,
Then
you're
you
erased
become
from the core finality, and you become
a
a
mighty
mighty messenger,
messenger.
something above a finaliter.
That's right. That's right. Well, I would not say something above a finaliter, Tim, because it's just one of the possibilities of finaliters. Okay, so we all will be going out for different jobs. It's just that they have gone the whole way from being immortal all the way up to the God the Father into the core finality. They become trinitized. When they become trinitized, they are eligible to become mighty messengers. So,
Okay, thank you for that note, Roger.
yeah. So, oh,
That's cool.
right.
And then number two, I'm looking at my map here of the Master Universe,
Uh-huh.
and according to Head, the Master Universe, the physical, including the 4 outer space levels,
Uh-huh.
we're talking about 100 trillion light years across.
Yeah, 100 trillion light years across, right? Yeah.
Shoot.
Wow.
That's a speculation too, Rodney. That's what they think it is. So, you know, it may be even bigger than that. So.
Not even.
Yeah.
All right. The phenomena indigenous to the nether side apparently probably embrace 3 zones of absolute force, presence, and performance. The fulcral zone of the unqualified absolute, the zone of the Isle of Paradise itself, and the intervening zone of certain unidentified, equalizing, and compensating agencies or functions. These triconcentric zones are the central of the paradise cycle of cosmic reality.
Okay, so we're talking about the unqualified absolute here underneath the Isle of Paradise. It's a circuit, right? All of which is part of whom? God the Father, right? So you got to keep that in mind. All this sounds like different beings, but it is part of God the Father and the makeup of God the Father. In Him we all dwell and have our being, right? All parts of it. Okay, just want to remind everybody of that. So that is all parts of cosmic reality. Dear, would you take the next one?
Space potency is a pre-reality. It is a domain of the unqualified absolute and is responsive only to the personal grasp of the Universal Father, notwithstanding that it is seemingly modifiable by the presence of the primary master force organizers.
Okay, so God the Father has control of it. and he hands it off to whom?
Master.
The master force organizers, right?
And Roger,
So-
what exactly is pre-reality?
That would be before anything exists. And what they're mostly talking about here, Tim, is like in the outer space levels. Before the universe is out there can start to be organized and put together, it is real. The fourth circuit of the outer space level is there already, and it's real. But it's really pre-real. What makes it real is when the sons of God goes out and starts creating universes, right? So in essence, it's pre-reality. There's no beings out there, so it's not real in the sense that it's a reality like the 7 super universes. So that makes it a pre-reality, really. We know it's coming, it's just not there yet. Does that
So
make
it's like
sense?
a future site of a home, or
It's
a
a
beginning
future
of
site. It would be like a subdivision without homes, almost. You know? You know, it's
Okay, thank you.
pre-reality, and nothing's real in there. Nobody lives there yet,
Yeah.
but it will be real soon. Okay. I stuck these in here hoping to make this come more real to everyone, you know. And forgive me if some of these don't quite fit, but I felt like these were the slides that helped make it come alive. Okay. This is the primary force organizer sets in motion around him Passant energy, which is not first responsive to the paradise gravity pull, at which point he retires. Okay, so the primary force organizer sets it in motion around him, and it's Passant energy. In other words, it's not responsive to gravity yet. Okay, all right. An associate transcendental master force organizer transforms the space energy from the Passant to the gravity stage. See that? When automatons appear which respond to the circular paradise gravity but not to linear gravity. So you see why the automatons are so important. Okay? So before this, it's not responsive to gravity, and then with the automatons and the associate master force organizer, it becomes gravity energy. Okay? It becomes responsive to gravity. Okay? Emergent energies, Passant and gravity energies, are called automata. Okay? So this is the ultimate energy. Makes sense? The automata. Right? Okay. Automatons appear, but electrons have not. This is before the electrons connect to it. Okay? The associate master force organizer may retire when electrons appear, right? Which, I can't read that here, can you read?
The associate
which
master force organizers retire when electrons appear, which
Response to linear gravity,
and
the
a
universe power directors, or is that
universal
power center?
center, yeah.
Yeah,
And I can't read the last.
I can't either.
Okay.
Okay.
That blue's not good.
No,
That
the
color's
blue's not
right.
good on that.
It needs to be dark blue.
That. So we have the Passant energy, right? The Paradise Master Force organizers. Then we have the Associate Master Force organizer who brings in the automaton, and it becomes responsive to gravity energy. And then when the electrons and the neutrons and all the other stuff comes into being, and we have a start of a universe, right?
I
Okay.
have a question, Roger.
Yeah.
Is it true that space is non-responsive to gravity?
That's right. Space is non-responsive to gravity.
And the reason why I'm asking is can you tell me what exactly is space?
Space, well, it talks about this later on in this paper. Space is not empty. It always has something in it. Even as small as 100 automatons. That still makes space have something in it. There is no such thing as ether space. We have this concept that back in the 50s, they kept talking about it's out there in the ether. The ether does not exist. There's no such thing as a space that has absolutely nothing in it. It at least has the ultimatons in it, and usually electrons. It can have very, very little in it, but it's not empty. So space can be anything with ultimatons in it. Now, if you wanted a concept of the ether, only the universal Father would know what that would be. That would be out past the 4 outer space levels, right? You might call that ether space. We don't know if there's anything out there, right? But as far as all space, it does have something in it. Does that help?
So it's kind of like, yeah, so it's kind of like, I imagine it to be like a substance that's unseen but can hold, it just draws stuff to it like a magnet.
That's right. That would be a good example too. Very good example. Okay? Alright, it says once electrons and other particles which respond to linear gravity appear, a universe power director takes over. And, oh, we got two ends there. And awaits the arrival of the Creator's Son. So once the electrons come into this particular area of space, okay, we call this gravata. Why would we call this gravata? Because it's responsive to what? Gravity, right? That's why they call it gravata. So the universe power director, which is what? The ancestors to the power control centers and everything controls the universe. Once the electrons come into that particular space, they sit and wait for what? A creator son and a creative mother spirit, right? To take over that space and start manipulating it into a local universe. Does this help?
Yeah, life keeps on going on.
Life keeps going on. That's right. Now this is the 3 types of energy. You know, we talked about gravata just now, universe power. Down here, okay. Madada is paradise energy, okay. That's singular energy. Where does that come from? God the Father, right? And then we have Havona. They call that triada. Why would they call it triada? Because when it goes from paradise to Havona, we have all 3 deities involved in Havona, right? Paradise is called Manada, mono meaning one, right? Who do you think controls that? God the Father, right? So when it goes into Havona, you have the 3 deities, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Spirit, involved in creating Havona, right? So we have triada. And then when we get down to the 7 super universes, that's all the creator sons, right? And everything by then is responsive to paradise gravity, right? So that's why that power is called what? Gravata, right? Okay. The makeup of the universe. I'm going to give you the keys of the universe right now, okay? Absolutum is made up of paradise energy. Does this make sense? Absolute, okay? So absolute material would be what? Absolutum, right? Havona atoms come in 3 varieties. Why do you think that is? We've got 3 deities involved, right? In Havona, God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit. So we have A, B, and C, and there's 100 possible Havona atoms. 1,000, I'm sorry. Possible atoms in Havona, right? Then we drop down to the next, the super universes, right? What do we have in a super universe? We have it made up of 2 deities. All the 7 super universes is made up of a creator son, creative mother spirit. We have 2 deities, don't we? 2. Here we have 3. Here we have 2, right? So all material that's responsive to paradise gravity, gravata, is made up of electrons and protons. 100 atoms, possible atoms in the 7 super universe. Okay? So what makes up all this energy? Monada, triada, and gravata. Right? That's the whole breakdown of all 7 super universes, Havona and paradise. What will we have in the outer space levels? I don't know. This might modify it completely. You know? Might be transcendental at that time. Okay. So, let's keep going here. Am I up on this?
I have no idea.
I think I
I
am.
think you are.
It's good because it's short. On Uversa, space potency is spoken of as what?
Absolutely.
Absoluta, right? So what is absoluta? Absoluta is the potency coming from God the Father, right? Okay.
Hey, Roger?
Yeah.
You're kind of blurry right now.
You're in a what?
You're kind of blurry. Do you see that, Rodney?
Oh yeah, I see that. My thing. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. No, hold on. It does this every now and then. I can usually fix it.
Okay. No? There's
See if it. Did it
There
come
it
in?
is. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yes, you look great, Roger.
It's magic. Thank you very much. All right. Tim, would you take number 2, primordial force?
2. Primordial force. This represents the first basic change in space potency and may be one of the neither paradise functions of the unqualified absolute. We know that the space presence going out from neither paradise is modified in some manner, form, that which is incoming. But regardless of any such possible relationships, the openly recognized transmutation of space potency into primordial force is the primary differentiating function of the tension presence in paradise force organizers.
Okay, so we go from space potency to primordial force. Do you see that? And the only difference between those two is the functioning of the tension presence of the paradise force organizers. The previous slide, which slide that we just looked at, right? All right. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Okay. Passive and potential force becomes active and primordial in response to resistance afforded by the space presence of the primary eventuated master force organizer. Force is now emerging from the exclusive domain of the unqualified absolute into the realms of multiple response. Response to certain primal motions initiated by the God of action, and thereupon to certain compensating motions emanating from the universal absolute. Primordial force is seemingly reactive to transcendental causation in proportion to absoluteness.
Now, see, this is where it gets a little muddy for me to explain. Okay? Let me see if I can go with this. Okay, so we have passive and potential force. Okay? It doesn't become active and primordial until there's a primary eventuated master force organizer. What is an eventuated master force organizer? Why is it called eventuated? Because an eventuated being appears upon necessity. Okay? So these are beings that just appear at the moment that they are needed, right? Full-fledged beings. Okay, so it comes directly, I assume, from God the Father, right? Because we're talking about the unqualified absolute. Okay? And then we go, the force goes from the domain of the unqualified absolute into the multiple response to certain primal motions initiated by the God of action, right? What is the God of action?
The infinite spirit, the conjurer actor?
That is considered a God of action, that's true, but what else? The universal absolute, okay? The God of action. One of the 7 of the My brain just went.
It's one of the seven absolutes.
One of the seven absolutes. That's what I was looking for. The universal absolute. First, we have the involvement of the unqualified absolute. Then we have involvement of the universal absolute. The universal absolute is the God of action. The universal absolute includes deity and non-deity function. Remember? Okay, that's the God of action. Okay? So the primordial force is seemingly reactive to transcendental causation in proportion to the absoluteness. What does that mean? That means when this force gets to a certain point, the transcendental kicks in and the transcendental eventuated master force organizers appear. Right? So because of the absoluteness, it finds itself ready, and so this transcendental causation causes the primary eventuated master force organizers to be created or to appear. Does that make sense? And that's how this potential force or primordial force becomes force that's able to be manipulated by these beings. Okay? All right, here we go. Did you read that, dear, or no? Who?
I don't think so.
Tim. Okay, I think Tim read that. So, Rodney, would you take the next one?
Okay, I actually read that.
Oh, did you?
Rodney
just read that. Okay, Diane.
Oh, it's
would you
me.
take- Yeah.
I was just trying to follow that.
Yeah.
Primordial force is sometimes spoken of as pure energy. On Uversa, we refer to it as segregata.
Segregata. Why would you call it segregata? Because it's segregated from pure energy. Right? All right. Emergent energies. Read this one too, dear, because that was too short.
3. Emergent energies. The passive presence of the primary force organizers is sufficient to transform space potency into primordial force, and it is upon such an activated space field that these same force organizers begin their initial and active operations. Primordial force is destined to pass through 2 distinct phases of transmutation in the realms of energy manifestation before appearing as universe power. These 2 levels of emerging energy are
And we're going to go on because we're going to talk about the 2 types here. Okay. Passant energy. This is the powerful directional mass movemented, mighty tensioned, and forcible reacting energy, gigantic energy systems set in motion by the activities of the primary force organizers. This primary or puissant energy is not at first definitely responsive to the paradise gravity pull. Did you catch that? Though probably yielding an aggregated mass or space directional response to the collective group of absolute influences operated from the neither side of paradise. When energy emerges to the level of initial response to the circular and absolute gravity grasp of paradise, the primary force organizers give way to the functioning of their secondary associates. So, the passant energy it's in between when the energy is not directly responsive to paradise gravity, right? It's responsive to what? The unqualified absolute. So, when it gets to a certain point of response, the absolute gravity grasp of paradise, the primary force organizers give way to the functioning of their secondary force organizers, right? Then it is responsive to gravity, right? Paradise
which
gravity.
was the slide you had previously.
Right. The second part of energy is here. Tim, would you read this one?
B. Gravity energy. The now appearing gravity responding energy carries the potential of universe power and becomes the active ancestor of all universe matter. This secondary or gravity energy is the product of the energy elaboration resulting from the pressure, presence, and the tension trends set out by the associate Transcendentalist Master Force organizers. In response to the work of these force manipulators, space energy rapidly passes from the quiescent to the gravity stage, thus becoming directly responsive to the circular grasp of paradise absolute gravity, while disclosing a certain potential for sensitivity to the linear gravity pull inherent in the soon appearing material mass of the electronic and post-electronic stages of energy and matter. Upon the appearance of gravity response, the associate master force organizers may retire from the energy cyclones of space, provided the universe power directors are assignable to that field of action.
So they pass this off to the universe power directors, right? When it's at this point, right? And what's interesting about this is first it becomes gravity responsive to paradise, right? Then it becomes linear gravity response. So you have two different gravity forces playing upon this matter, right? The linear gravity is the force of gravity between the molecules themselves, the planets, the suns, all this stuff. This is the linear gravity. This would be the local universe gravity, right? But the paradise gravity is still active. All the local universes are still within the grasp of the paradise gravity. Does that make sense? And it's got its own gravity too. Even the planet itself has gravity, right?
It would have
To stay in orbit. Okay. Including the suns and the planets. Okay, Rodney.
All right. We are quite uncertain regarding the exact causes of the early stages of force evolution, but we recognize the intelligent action of the ultimate in both levels of emergent energy manifestation, whose solid and gravity energies, though regarded collectively, are spoken of universal as automata.
Okay, so this is the ultimate gravity, right? Automata. Right? Okay.
For universe power, space force has been changed into space energy, and thence into the energy of gravity control. Thus has physical energy been ripened to that point where it can be directed into channels of power and made to serve the manifold purposes of the universe creators. This work is carried on by the versatile directors, centers, and controllers of physical energy in the grand universe, the organized and inhabited creations. These universe power directors assume the more or less complete control of 21 of the 30 phases of energy constituting the present energy system of the 7 superuniverses. This domain of power energy matter is a realm of the intelligent activities of the sevenfold, functioning under the time-space control, over-control of the Supreme.
Okay, so this is the point where the paradise sons and daughters, the creator sons and the creative daughters come in to start creating the universes, right? And they are manipulated by what? The universe power directors, okay? And all their children, everyone under them, all these beings start to come into to play in this. And they're all under the intelligent activities of God the Sevenfold, God the Supreme, the Ancients of Days, all the way down, right? All 7 of them. All right, and the other interesting part of this too is it's all under the over control of the Supreme, the uneventuated Supreme, the Supreme that hasn't completely emerged, right? So we can see why the Creator Sons all want to stay within the purpose of what? The Supreme, right? Because the Supreme is involved in even creating this. Okay? The next one. On Uversa, we refer to the realm of the universe power as Gravada. Why? Because it's the power, it's the gravity power of the local universe, or the super universe. Well, that's good. Got a cat that got sick here.
Hairball.
Yeah, hairball. He just couldn't stand my lesson here. Okay. Tim, would you take the next one?
6. Transcendental energy.
No,
This
Havona.
ener-
5. Havona energy. Oh,
Oh,
did I go
Havona.
back? No, it's 5. That's right.
5. Havona energy. In concept, this narrative has been moving paradise-ward as transmuting space force has been followed level by level to the working level of the energy power of the universes of time and space. Continuing paradise-ward, there is in the next encountered a pre-existent phase of energy which is characteristic of the central universe. Here the evolutionary cycle seems to turn back upon itself. Energy power now seems to begin to swing back toward force, but force of a nature very unlike that of space potency and primordial force. Havona energy systems are not dual, they are triune. This is experiential energy domain of the conjoint actor functioning on behalf of the Paradise Trinity.
That's existential energy domain of the conjoint actor. Function in behalf of the Paradise Trinity. So it turns back on itself and turns into an existential type of energy. And this is called what? Universa, energies of home known as triada, right? Okay. Now, Rodney, would you take the next one, 6?
Oh, hey Roger, I just had a
Yeah.
question.
Sure.
When they say Havona energy systems are not dual, they are triune, what is that?
They have 3 parts. They have influence of God the Father, God the Son, he's laying in that here, God the Spirit.
Okay, thank you.
That's why it's called triune. A little bit more here right under his tail. Sorry, y'all, we have a cat that got sick now. He's trying to lay in it. Yeah, that's why it's called triad. It's an influence of God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit, and all atomic matter in Havona is built on those 3 combinations of atoms, which gives them 1,000 types of elements, right?
And just one more question. When they say something like the universes are dual, what do they mean by that?
Well, the universes are dual because they are made from the creation of a dual deity, the Creator Son and the local universe Mother Spirit.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
That's why they're called dual. Okay. Who's up? Rodney?
Okay. 6. Gentle energy. This energy system operates on and from the upper level of paradise and only in connection with the Absonite peoples.
Okay, we know this is the area of the Transcendentalers who live in Paradise and Havona, right? And they don't tell us a whole lot about the Transcendentalers, but they do call this Trinosta for the Transcendentalers. So that's about all they tell us about that, okay? All right, and then we go on to Monada.
7. Monada. Energy is close of kin to divinity when it is paradise energy. We incline to the belief that Monada is a living, non-spirit energy of paradise, and an eternity counterpart of the living, spirit energy of the original Son. Hence the non-spiritual energy system of the Universal Father.
Okay, so Monada, remember, is paradise. Remember that from this slide, right? So we just covered all of this again, okay? Now I just want to stick that back in there. We cannot differentiate the nature of the paradise spirit and the present paradise Monada. They are apparently alike. They have different names, but you can hardly be told very much about a reality whose spiritual and whose non-spiritual manifestations are distinguishable only by a name. So when you get to paradise, the material of paradise is so closely akin to the spirit nature that it's hard to tell what's spirit and what's not. Does that make sense? And that's why they call it Kanata. Okay, let's sum up again. We know that finite creatures can attain the worship experience of the Universal Father through the ministry of God the Sevenfold and the Thought Adjusters. But we doubt that any absolute personality, even power directors, can comprehend the energy infinity of the first great source and center. One thing is certain: if the power directors are conversant with the technique of the metaforces of space force, they do not reveal the secret to the rest of us. It is my opinion that they do not fully comprehend the function of the force organizers, which makes sense. Why would they? Okay, Tim, would you take the next one?
These power directors themselves are energy catalyzers. That is, they cause energy to segment, organize, or assemble in unit formation by the presence. And all of this implies that there must be something inherent in energy which causes it thus to function in the presence of these power entities. The Nebuchadnezzar long since dominated the phenomenon of transmutation of cosmic force into universe power as one of the 7 infinities of divinity. And that is as far as you will advance on this point during your local universe ascension.
And that's all they're going to tell us about it, right? It is what it is. Okay. Rodney, would you take the next one, please, sir?
All right. Notwithstanding our inability fully to comprehend the origin, nature, and transmutations of cosmic force, we are fully conversant with all phases of emergent energy behavior from the times of its direct and unmistakable response to the action of paradise gravity, about the time of the beginning of the function of the super-universe power directors.
Okay, so what we've taken so far is all the way from the beginning of energy, from God the Father, all the way down to the super-universe power directors, where they actually start manipulating it. And I'm going to stop there for tonight, because I don't want to get into another subject, because we don't have much time left. You know, I don't want to get right in the middle of this and have to go back through it again. So we're going to stop on section 3, classification of matter, and we'll take this up on the next one. Okay? So let's have a little prayer and we'll quit for the night. Tim, would you like to say a little prayer for us tonight?
Sure, I'd love to.
Okay.
Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our bread for tomorrow, refresh our souls with the water of life, and forgive us every one of our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. Save us in temptation, deliver us from evil, and increasingly make us perfect like yourself. Truly, not my will, but your will be done, Father.
In your name. Amen. Thank you for joining us. Please come see us again. Next week we'll take it up on section 3 of paper 42.